The scout ship glided silently through the amber-tinted clouds of the alien world, its sleek hull reflecting the twin suns as it descended toward the dense jungle below. Inside, figures moved with a precision that spoke of years of training. Commander Thaler, tall and composed, his sharp features shadowed under the ship's dim lights, led the team with an authority that brooked no argument. Beside him, Carol's wiry frame quivered with barely restrained amusement, his eyes scanning the chaotic greenery below with disdain. Marek, more contemplative, tapped at a holographic console, analyzing atmospheric patterns and noting unusual flora, while Jorik, the youngest, carried a mixture of awe and excitement in his gaze. "Humans actually survive in this?" Carell asked, the words dripping with incredulity. This jungle would swallow them in a heartbeat. His smirk suggested that he found the notion almost laughable. Thaler's eyes didn't leave the viewport. "They survive because they must," he said, calm but firm. "And because they adapt. Never underestimate humans, Carell. Pride can be fatal." Carell snorted but followed as the ship touched down on a clearing, thrusters pushing aside vines and small trees with a hiss. The jungle seemed to inhale around them, leaves trembling as if aware of the intrusion. Thala was the first to step onto the moist, alien soil, boots sinking slightly into the spongy undergrowth. The others followed, their movements precise, mechanical, like pieces of a well-oiled machine. Drones hovered into the canopy, their sensors humming as they scanned for life and activity. Evidence of human presence emerged almost immediately. Camouflage shelters tucked between giant ferns, faint smoke trails from controlled fires, and subtle but intricate traps embedded in the undergrowth. Carell crouched, inspecting a pit concealed with vines. "Impressive," Marek said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. "They're cleverer than I expected." "Clever, yes," Thaler replied, stepping closer. "But observe, not assume superiority. Intelligence does not always equate to strength." His gaze swept the clearing, noting the arrangement of trees and the placement of natural obstacles. Humans make their environment work for them. That is their advantage. Jorik scanned the canopy, eyes widening as a pair of strange, iridescent birds wheeled above, their cries blending with the rustle of leaves. "It's almost as if the jungle itself is alive, waiting." "Or watching," Marek added. He pointed to a series of depressions in the soil, broken branches, and faint scratches along a tree trunk. "Humans have moved through here recently. And deliberately." Carol's confident smirk faltered. "Deliberately, but still just humans, right?" Before anyone could answer, the jungle spoke. A deep, resonant laugh rolled through the trees, carrying an uncanny intelligence that froze the scouts in place. It was human, undeniably, yet charged with a confidence and calculation that no ordinary human could possess. The sound lingered, echoing from branch to branch, as though the forest itself carried the voice. Thaler's eyes narrowed. "They are aware of us," he said, tone steady but edged with caution. "Always." Marek knelt, studying the ground. Hidden stakes camouflaged with moss, fine tripwires blending seamlessly with vines, and trees marked with nearly invisible indicators. "This is more than survival," he said, voice low. "This is strategy." Carell shook his head, incredulous, but the laughter returned, low and deliberate, as if acknowledging his doubt. The forest itself seemed to participate in the jest, moving subtly in rhythm with the sound. "It's just one human?" Carell asked, his bravado weakening. "Yes," Thaler said softly, "but one human who understands this world in ways we cannot. And when one can manipulate the jungle so thoroughly, the rest are bound to be formidable." He gestured to the undergrowth where the traps had been set. "We must proceed carefully. One misstep," his voice trailed, the implication clear. The scouts moved deeper, the canopy closing around them, sunlight barely piercing through dense foliage. The air grew heavy, humid, and fragrant with alien blossoms, their bioluminescence faintly shimmering even in daylight. Every rustle of leaves and every snap of twig heightened their awareness, each sound a potential threat. The drones buzzed nervously, their sensors overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of the flora. By evening, the team had cleared a small patch to set up camp. Fires were lit, instruments deployed, and the jungle settled into a tense silence. Carell hunched over his data pad, reviewing the traps and markings they had found. "I still don't get it," he muttered. "How can one human orchestrate all this?" Thala studied the darkness beyond the firelight. "Not just orchestrate," he said. "He adapts, anticipates, manipulates. Pride blinds us, Carell, but skill and patience are the true threats." From the shadowed trees, the faint rustle of movement again hinted at a presence unseen. Then, that voice, low, deliberate, confident, human yet superior in its command of the environment. The laugh faded, leaving the scouts to ponder what waited in the darkness. Thaler stood, gaze fixed on the tree-line. "Tonight we rest. Tomorrow we advance. And when we do, we will see exactly why humans are not to be underestimated." The fire crackled as shadows danced across the clearing. Somewhere above, unseen and silent, the human hunter watched, patient and aware. The jungle, alive with subtle menace, whispered its warning. These scouts had entered a world where humans were not prey. They were the hunters. Morning broke through the jungle canopy in shafts of pale light, catching the lingering mist and turning the dense foliage into a shifting mosaic of green and gold. The alien scouts stirred from their uneasy rest, the memory of the laughter still echoing in their minds. Commander Thaler moved first, his expression unreadable, eyes scanning the trees as if willing them to reveal the hunter. Carell yawned, but even his usual cocky demeanor was tinged with unease. "Something's off," Marek muttered, adjusting the sensors on his shoulder. "These traps, they're not random. Someone set them to channel movement, force us along specific paths." Jorik, trying to mask his apprehension, replied, "A human? All of them? Or just the one laughing in the treetops?" Thaler shook his head. "One hunter can reshape an entire battlefield if he knows it well. This one does." The team advanced carefully, every step measured. The jungle's undergrowth was thick, each footfall stirring unseen life. Alien sensors flickered in confusion as enormous, camouflaged predators slithered past, hidden by foliage that the human hunters seemed to manipulate effortlessly. A faint snap of a twig made Carell freeze, his hand instinctively hovering over his weapon. Then it struck a pit, hidden beneath a thick mat of vines and leaves. Before anyone could react, Jorik toppled forward, caught by the pit's trap. He struggled, panicking as spikes embedded along the walls glinted dangerously. Marek jumped forward, releasing a grappling line, but even as he pulled, Thaler barked orders, forcing them to reevaluate their approach. "He anticipated our path," Thaler said quietly. "He's not just watching, he's guiding us." Carell stepped back, fuming. "It's just a human. How can he be everywhere at once?" Marek's eyes narrowed. "It's not magic. It's knowledge. Strategy. The jungle is an extension of his mind." The sound came again, low, confident, human laughter, echoing from the canopy. This time, it carried purpose. It taunted without need for words, suggesting the hunters' awareness of every misstep they took. Thaler signaled for a halt, crouching near a tree with markings too subtle for alien instruments to detect. "See these?" he said. "They're guides, warnings, traps. He's shaping the battlefield. We're inside it now." Carell clenched his fists, scanning the undergrowth with renewed vigilance. "This is ridiculous. We're supposed to be the advanced scouts. Superior technology. And we can't even walk through the jungle without getting trapped." Thaler's gaze did not waver. Superior technology does not equal superiority in all environments. The hunter uses simplicity against complexity, patience against force. He forces us to make mistakes, then punishes them. A rustle overhead drew their attention. Marek's drone faltered, snagged in a tangle of vines that seemed to have grown with purpose. "He's manipulating the environment," Marek breathed. "Every plant, every obstacle, it's not random. It's controlled, almost like the jungle itself is alive." Suddenly, A shadow moved across the clearing. The hunter revealed himself briefly, lean, agile, dressed in practical camouflage that blended with the canopy, carrying a combination of traditional hunting tools and subtle technology. His eyes glinted with intelligence and patience. Then he was gone, vanished as though he had never been there. The scouts exchanged uneasy glances. Carell muttered, I don't understand. Where did he go? How? Thaler interrupted, his voice low and steady. He doesn't need to be seen to be present. He controls the battlefield from above and below, anticipates our reactions, and punishes errors before they manifest. One human has turned this jungle into a weapon against us. The day wore on with a series of escalating challenges. Traps were encountered, some deadly, some simple but effective. Drones were disabled, sensors jammed, and every turn seemed preordained. The scouts began to realize that their confidence had been misplaced, their arrogance blinding them to the hunter's ingenuity. Marek knelt near a camouflaged snare, examining its construction. Notice the subtle differences? The way the vines bend naturally, the way debris is layered. It's not just camouflage, it's anticipation of our behavior. Anticipation. Carell echoed, frustration lacing his tone. This is absurd. One man cannot predict 4 trained scouts with advanced equipment. Thaler's jaw tightened. Underestimating him will be our downfall. Remember, he is human, yes, but he understands the terrain, the psychology of hunters and prey, and how to make the jungle a weapon. That is far more dangerous than any alien technology. As twilight approached, a final warning came. The hunter's laughter, deeper now, resonated across the treetops, then faded into the shadows. The scouts were left in uneasy silence, the jungle seemingly still, yet every branch, leaf, and shadow suggested unseen eyes tracking them. Thaler crouched, hands resting on his knees, speaking softly to the team. Tonight we prepare. Tomorrow we move with caution. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and this jungle will claim us all. Carell stared into the shadows, his arrogance replaced with a grudging respect and a touch of fear. All this from one human? Yes, Thaler replied. And if we survive, we will understand why humans are never to be underestimated. The hunter is patient, intelligent, and ruthless in his environment. Our task is not to conquer the jungle, but to survive it long enough to learn from him. The fire crackled faintly, throwing long shadows into the dense foliage. Somewhere above, hidden, the human hunter observed silently, confident in his mastery of the terrain. Every sound, every movement of the scouts had been anticipated. The jungle, alive and merciless, had already begun to teach its lesson. Humans were not weak, and in their home, one could make an entire alien squad question their superiority. Word count 980. Image prompt. Alien scouts struggling through a dense jungle filled with hidden traps and glowing plants, shadows hinting at a human hunter perched high in the canopy, observing silently, with a sense of unseen intelligence controlling the environment. If you want, I can now construct Section 3, where the human hunter directly confronts the scouts, showing his ingenuity and escalating the HFY theme, keeping it under 1,000 words. Do you want me to proceed with Section 3? The jungle had grown oppressive, a living maze that pressed in from all sides. The scouts advanced cautiously, each step deliberate, each movement scrutinized. Commander Thaler led the way, scanning the canopy, the undergrowth, and the faint trails left by human ingenuity. Carell's usual bravado had been replaced by a taut edge, his hands lingering on his weapon, as if expecting the hunter to appear at any moment. Marek adjusted the sensors on his backpack, frustration flickering across his features. Every instrument we have is useless here, he muttered. He nullifies them before we can even deploy. Thaler did not reply, his gaze locked on a series of broken branches that formed a subtle path through the jungle. He wants us to see, to understand, he said quietly. But he also wants us to make mistakes. Carell shook his head, stepping over a low-lying vine. I don't care if he wants us to make mistakes. We are the most advanced scouts in the Corps. One human cannot. A sharp snap interrupted him. A net, nearly invisible, dropped from the trees, ensnaring his legs and jerking him off balance. Marek lunged forward, releasing a cutting beam, but the hunter had anticipated even that. The net was reinforced with a lattice of natural fibers, flexible and resilient, shrugging off the technology. Carell struggled, his pride stung more than his limbs, as Thaler calmly stepped forward and cut him free with precise efficiency. "He is everywhere at once," Carell hissed, regaining his footing. "How is that even possible?" "He understands movement predictability," Thaler said. "He reads our instincts, our training, and uses the environment itself to his advantage. Remember, Carell, the hunter is human, but in his domain, he is predator and architect." The hunter's presence became undeniable as the forest itself seemed to respond to their intrusion. Vines shifted subtly, branches bent without wind, and shadows flickered where none should have been. Every trap they encountered was elegant in its simplicity yet devastatingly effective. Concealed pits, tripwires connected to falling logs, and even poison darts that blended with flowers. The scouts realized that technology alone could not overcome this combination of human cunning and intimate knowledge of terrain. Then he appeared briefly. High in the canopy, barely visible, the human hunter crouched with perfect balance, bow in hand, eyes scanning the scouts like a predator sizing prey. He smiled faintly at Carol's frustration and then vanished into the green, leaving only the whisper of movement behind. The scouts froze, a mixture of awe and fear rippling through them. "He's patient," Marek said softly. "He doesn't attack directly. He teaches, tests, controls. This is a battlefield designed to humble us." Jork swallowed, eyes darting to every flicker of shadow. "We've underestimated humans," he admitted, voice barely audible. "We thought technology was enough." Thaler's jaw tightened. "It is not arrogance to respect your opponent. Underestimating him could be fatal. Observe, learn, adapt." He signaled them forward, and they proceeded with extreme caution, stepping lightly, scanning the undergrowth, listening to the faintest sounds of movement. The hunter's ingenuity became clear when they reached a narrow clearing. Logs were positioned to fall with a single disturbance, tripwires crisscrossed, some obvious, others hidden in plain sight. As Carell advanced too quickly, a log toppled, narrowly missing him but striking a drone out of the sky. He cursed under his breath, realizing that even their best technology was being used against them. Thaler motioned for silence, crouching behind a tree. "Notice the pattern," he instructed. "Every obstacle, every trap has a logic. He isn't just defending, he is orchestrating our behavior. He channels our moves, anticipates our decisions, and punishes errors with precision." Carol's frustration boiled over. "This is insane. One human, one man, has made this entire jungle a weapon against us." "That is what makes him dangerous," Thaler said calmly. "He uses what he has, not what he wishes he had. Where we rely on technology, he relies on adaptability. Where we rely on firepower, he relies on strategy. And in this jungle, strategy outweighs strength." Suddenly, a dart whistled past Jorik's ear, striking a tree with a sharp thunk. The scouts instinctively dove, and the hunter's laughter echoed through the trees, low and deliberate, almost conversational. It carried a challenge as much as amusement, a reminder that the jungle belonged to him and the scouts were trespassers in his domain. Marek whispered, "It's psychological, too. He's breaking our composure, forcing hesitation, feeding our mistakes." The scouts moved cautiously through the clearing, finally pausing at a stream. Thala knelt, examining footprints that were subtle yet deliberate. "He leaves us messages," he said. "Warnings, guides, traps, but also lessons. He wants us to understand. He wants us to survive if we can." Carell exhaled sharply, his pride battered but his respect for the hunter growing. This is unlike anything I've encountered. He isn't just surviving, he's dominating." Thaler nodded, his gaze lingering on the treetops. "Dominance is a function of knowledge and adaptability. He is human, yes, but in his environment, he is superior to any of us. Remember this, scouts." Respect him, or we will pay the price. The light shifted as the suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the clearing. The hunter's presence remained, unseen but palpable. Every rustle of leaves, every subtle movement seemed calculated, deliberate, and part of a larger design. The scouts set up a temporary camp, weary and cautious, their technology deployed sparingly, each team member alert to the faintest sound. From the canopy, a shadow flitted silently. The hunter observed, calculating, patient. The jungle itself seemed to bend to his will, every tree, vine, and shadow a tool in his hands. The scouts understood now what they had only glimpsed before. One human had not only survived but had mastered this alien jungle to the point where it had become his weapon, and they were caught squarely within it. Thaler stood, addressing the team in a low voice. We advance tomorrow. We survive today. Remember what you've learned: intelligence, patience, adaptability. One human has turned this environment into a challenge we cannot meet with strength alone. Carell looked at the darkening treetops, silent for once. I never imagined a human could control all of this. Thaler's gaze lingered on the shadows above. Control is the wrong word. Mastery is better. And tomorrow, we will see just how far that mastery reaches. The fire crackled faintly in the jungle night, shadows dancing across the undergrowth. Somewhere above, hidden, the hunter's eyes gleamed with quiet satisfaction. The lesson had begun, and the scouts would discover, step by step, that underestimating humans in their element was the gravest error an alien could make. Dawn broke over the jungle in pale, trembling light, casting long shadows that slithered across the alien scouts' path. Commander Thaler moved first, scanning the dense canopy above, his eyes narrowed in calculation. Carell followed, tense and silent, a far cry from the cocky bravado that had greeted the jungle's first challenges. Marek adjusted the sensors for the 100th time, muttering curses under his breath as each reading returned distorted or null. Jorik's hands hovered over his weapon, his youthful excitement tempered by the weight of the jungle's lessons. This is it, Thaler whispered. The hunter wants a final test. Every trap, every diversion, every obstacle we have faced was preparation. Now we move with care, or we fail. The scouts advanced along a narrow ridge, vines hanging like curtains and thick roots snaking across the ground. The air was thick, humid, carrying faint floral scents that masked the presence of danger. Every movement was mirrored by subtle shifts in shadows and leaves, every step calculated by the unseen hunter. Carell paused, glancing down a slope littered with tripwires and sharpened stakes. How is this one man orchestrating all of this? He asked, disbelief in his voice. Intelligence and mastery of terrain, Thaler replied. Not arrogance, not technology. Skill, patience, and an intimate understanding of the environment. Without warning, a series of falling logs cascaded down the ridge, narrowly missing the scouts. Marek ducked instinctively, the logs smashing into the undergrowth and triggering a series of snare traps along the lower slopes. Carell froze mid-step as a vine looped around his ankle, jerking him back. Thaler caught him, cutting him free with surgical precision. Every move is guided, Thaler said. He predicts, manipulates, and punishes. The hunter is human, but here, he is superior. The canopy above flickered. In a blink, the hunter appeared, perched like a shadowed sentinel among the branches. Lean, agile, and impossibly still, he studied the scouts with piercing eyes. He did not speak, did not gesture, his presence alone communicated control. Then, with fluid grace, he vanished, leaving the scouts to confront the next layer of danger, the jungle itself, now alive with movement and traps in ways that seemed deliberate, almost intelligent. Carell's frustration boiled over. We have advanced technology, precision, firepower, and yet he's turning every advantage against us. Thaler's eyes were calm but resolute. That is the difference between humans and most other species, Carell. They do not rely on what they have. They rely on what they can do with what surrounds them. And in this environment, one man can wield the jungle as a weapon. A sudden rush of motion forced them to dive for cover as a tree limb fell, triggered by an almost invisible tripwire. Arrows hissed past, embedding in nearby trunks. The scouts realized with a jolt that the hunter was not just guiding the jungle's traps, he was controlling their engagement from multiple angles, forcing them to adapt constantly, stretching their skills to the limit. Marek gritted his teeth, surveying the battlefield. It's psychological warfare. He anticipates our reactions before we even make them. He's teaching and testing at the same time. The scouts advanced slowly, carefully picking their path, but the hunter's influence was everywhere. Vines moved subtly, roots shifted, shadows twisted, all forcing them to second-guess every step. The air was alive with tension, and even their drones faltered, caught in natural obstacles that seemed impossible to predict. Suddenly, the hunter revealed himself on the ridge above. With a single motion, he loosed a series of arrows that struck precise points on the terrain, triggering logs and stones to fall in a controlled cascade. The scouts ducked, but the scene left them awestruck. The hunter had anticipated not just their movements, but the exact order in which they would respond. Karel exhaled sharply, eyes wide. He's orchestrating an entire symphony of traps, and we're the instruments. Thaler's jaw tightened. We've underestimated him at every turn. Yet look at what he has taught us. Intelligence, patience, adaptability. One human has used the simplest elements of the jungle to defeat our most advanced technology. That is mastery. The hunter paused, his figure silhouetted against the rising sun, watching the scouts with an almost imperceptible smile. Then he vanished again, leaving the jungle eerily silent. The scouts, exhausted and humbled, regrouped in a small clearing, their pride battered, their arrogance gone. Thaler addressed them quietly. We came here expecting to dominate. Instead, we have been schooled. Not by technology, not by force, but by one man's knowledge and skill. This is the essence of humans. They adapt, they endure, they master environments that seem impossible. That is why they are never to be underestimated. Karel sank to a moss-covered root, finally silent. I don't think I'll ever laugh at humans again, he admitted, a rare humility in his tone. The forest remained still, shadows stretching across the clearing, hiding the hunter's presence. Somewhere above, unseen, he observed the scouts one last time before slipping silently into the treetops. Every step, every trap, every calculated move had been a lesson. Humans could be patient, cunning, and terrifyingly precise when their survival, or pride, was at stake. Thaler surveyed the team. We leave this jungle with our understanding expanded. One human has turned an entire alien environment against us, and survived. That is the measure of skill, resilience, and intelligence. The scouts packed their gear, their movements deliberate, carrying the weight of newfound respect. Karel cast a final glance at the jungle, still shimmering with the morning light, knowing that the hunter could be anywhere, waiting. The laughter that had haunted them echoed faintly in their minds, a reminder that humans were never as helpless as they appeared. As they returned to the ship, the jungle fell silent, the treetops empty. The hunter had chosen not to confront them directly, but his presence lingered, a testament to human ingenuity and cunning. For the scouts, the lesson was clear. Pride could be shattered, technology could be outmaneuvered, and in their element, humans were not prey. They were masters. The ship lifted, rising through the canopy, leaving behind the labyrinth of vines, shadows, and traps. The scouts looked down, humbled, wary, and inspired in equal measure. The jungle had tested them, and one human had shown that survival was not about strength or firepower alone, but intelligence, strategy, and the patience to wait for the perfect moment.